Welcome back to the channel. It's January 26th, 2021. This is, of course, Patreon video that I now do live on Theta for anybody that wants to join. But if you want to catch the archive, of course, everybody that's watching it already knows. I'll link it as a post later on in my Patreon channel. So that's as you can see in the title of the video, we're talking about year one themes, and Batman is going to factor in here. And we are going to kind of close out the story arc that we've started with the ritual for the reset and solving what the Templars are telling us in their megalithic structures. And of course, not just the Templars either. The Templars are only a generalization that we've been using, as we've also been talking about lately, for a faction of Gnostic orders that are playing their hand of in this grand theater that we are living in these days, with the election having concluded with the inauguration last week. That's not the end of the story, as most people are likely aware if they're following what's going on. We're going to touch on that by the end of the video, but we're going to close these themes out with, believe it or not, tying in Batman and what Batman means to the year one narrative. Batman actually had a comic released by that same name, written by Frank Miller, back in the 1980s, the late 1980s, I think. We're going to look into it today. Of course, the date is in there, but we're going to start by also preambling the NFL playoffs. We have not the Patriots. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, excuse me, because Tom Brady's on their team. I get them a little bit mixed up. We have them playing the Chiefs, and I correctly picked every single playoff result correctly except for the final one. There was a thing I missed, and we're going to touch on that. But the main thing is that we will go over this by the end of the video, and what it means to the ritual that I predicted the Buccaneers would be in the playoffs because it was Super Bowl 55, and what that means for the V-steganography we cover here, and what that means, of course, if you're unfamiliar, of course you guys probably already are, but the V-steganography apparent that helped us solve the riddle in plain sight in the first place. So we're looking to conclude some of these transition moments, at least as far as the rituals are concerned, and we're going to incorporate both the NFL themes and the Batman themes both for this presentation. But to tie it in, there's ancient archaeological knowledge from our secret past that's going to tie it all together, that of the Mayans. And it's not something we've looked into incredibly deeply in terms of the Templars, because we typically associate them with the kind of Judeo-Christian type of symbology. But we're going to show that the Mayan symbology comes from a common root. The Aryans, remember, they were of the mind that the Aryans are from Mars now. And pretty apparently so, which factors into the NFL ritual as well. So this is all going to reaffirm that. The Mayan stuff is all going to reaffirm our latest videos. And just so you guys are aware, if you are catching this is the Patreon page, of course, where all of our latest videos relating to the Aryans, in past the ritual that I was pointing to there with the obelisk on Theta. All of these videos here go back to Antarctica and our moon arc that the Aryans originally came here in. And we have been going deep on those topics, using the V-steganography to confirm what our research is telling us. And on that note, I do have kind of before we get into that, I've got a couple housekeeping items before we get into the presentation proper. One of the patrons, one of our patrons, AV Adams, you've seen him around both Theta and the Discord channel, sent me a web page that I'm going to share to people. It's a really good thing to keep in mind that he himself in his work has to keep in mind every day because of the manner that the manner of his archaeological work that he does. And so the things that in our community that we're actually going to have to arm ourselves with the most in year one and actually throughout this presentation is this section right here, which he highlights really important distinctions between certain phraseologies. We've spoken lately of the apophenia that can set in, and we've spoken of the pareidolia that can set in. Apophenia is, of course, drawing patterns where they don't belong, and pareidolia is very specifically finding like caricature shapes, like Jesus in your toast, that kind of thing. And so to arm ourselves against those, I want to briefly go over these, zoom in on these real quick so we can read them all. It says facts. Okay, the segue from science back to treasure hunting. Let's look for a few definitions, because remember, using the V-steganography, we are going treasure hunting. And we're finding our treasure of information. The treasure of the world is information, right? And this is what the Templars allowed so much, is converting that information into knowledge, into knowings, into so this is kind of the progress of us getting to the bottom of things. And as we get closer with these riddles, it's important not to let our excitement get the best of us, because even I am pretty excited about the confirmation that we're seeing. So facts, right? As he starts off to say, these are points of data that can be verified by a trusted source. Okay? This is the ultimate in what we're trying to arrive at with our conclusions. Information is formally the degree of surprise which a fact imparts. See, for example, Shannon's classic definition of information built around the concept of entropy. Entropy is a concept we'll get into in a different video. We needn't get into it now. It simply states that as you go away from a point, things become more chaotic. This can extend into the future, and it can extend into the past. It is as a reference point for time as well. So entropy, typically, because as expressed a distance from something, time is an association with this. An entropic field, therefore, is temporal in nature. And so the information that you're receiving, therefore, talked about this, we've got to use our V-nous to look past the senses to interpret the information and not let the Maya set in, right? So, by the way, just a second here. I need to, yeah. How's my syncing? How's my voice sync on this? By the way, AV Adams, or not AV Adams, Hederick. I was just talking about AV Adams because of the document, of course, but I just want to make sure my voice is syncing okay with this, because I was trying out new mic setups and stuff over the weekend. So let me know if it needs adjusting, and I'll have to do that on the fly. But back to AV Adams and his document here. Knowledge, therefore, is by his definition, the meta-understanding and mental model of the real world based on the accumulation of facts and information. So if facts are what we're deriving our understanding based off of, and that information, therefore, is the mode by which we have to receive and interpret the facts, right? The analysis has to combine to create knowledge. And then experience and truth are separate. So these three are fairly intertwined with one another as the same concept, but then experience and truth kind of get tacked on here. So truth is the knowable and totally objective beyond the reach, unknowable and totally objective beyond the reach of any mortal. Okay, so these are the things that by going through the process of gnosis and accumulating facts, information, and turning it into knowledge, we can only hope to approximate, which is the whole goal of reaching beyond the five senses and the V-steganography in the first place. So you can see why this is so cool to wrap in here. And then, of course, experience, as he states, is an assessment of truth based on personal interaction with real world in light of one's knowledge. So this is not truth, but own personal facts, right? And this is where people's perspectives and their own truths can get conflated sometimes. So let's always keep a keen understanding of using these terms parsimoniously and correctly as we go about this presentation, as well as in the future. And with that, last little bit of announcement to make. I backed up all my channel on Brighteon. The YouTube stuff is still plugging along. I have not gotten any strikes or anything, But I'm very careful with my language of what I post on YouTube, of course, after I got the one video banned, which actually, if you guys want to see the video that is banned, here it is right here. The Conquering COVID-19 and Coronavirus, Trustless Bitcoin, and Bank Takedown. And I wanted to highlight that one anyway. Woo! Zoomed in way too far. But here it is right here. I'm going to click on it in Brighteon. And this is the logo that you can look at, the Conquering Coronavirus. It's got Ozzy Osbourne kind of on the cover. As you can see, the bat and the Batman, it's a ritual component to what we're going to talk about today, is a really good video to catch up on and familiarize yourself with. That one was banned on YouTube, and that was the part where I had to start splitting all of my attention to Patreon, I decided, and cover these deeper topics that I was only censoring myself with there. But I have successfully backed it up there, so follow me there. I also have the Odyssey channel is almost all backed up, and I'm also on Rumble too. So I've been busy at work these last couple of weeks solidifying all this stuff. So that's kind of where you guys can get a set of information that's going to directly feed into what we're going to talk about with the Batman stuff. But without further ado, we're going to get into it because, we're a few minutes into this stream now. We haven't really touched on the Batman stuff outside of me telling you about what we're going to talk about. Everybody should be familiar with this metaphysical man structure. We are going to highlight some of these alchemical symbols today again, but we aren't going to use this presentation board too much. But as a jumping off point from the Ozzy Osbourne video, I do want to scroll down to some of the Ozzy stuff. It's like, here is that video bumper that I made an image for, and the bat signals above it. And I did not know how prophetic this video would actually be in terms of setting the stage for some themes that we're going to go through here in year one. I did this in the middle of year 0, of course, and it was all related to the coronavirus that was coming out and Ozzy Osbourne's album and the mind control that has pervaded on him and the battle of good and evil, the yin and the yang on this planet to fight the V, but to resonate in the lambda. However, not getting your mind controlled, like in Clockwork Orange. And in this video, very quickly, you'll see, just like this is Ozzy Osbourne's Ordinary Man video, where he's dressed up as a bat. Of course, once his mind was controlled in the 80s, he was famous for biting a head off of a bat and all these things. But he releases this album last year with all this iconography, the Clockwork Orange derby hat, the Clockwork Orange makeup, and the bat. And so his lambda, where we want to resonate to complete the V and lock in a Merkaba, activate our Christ, to ascend out of this place and reach God again, that's the whole trick, right? And so it would seem we've got a huge component that we're starting with. And of course, the Half-Life video game with its lambda, same color as the Clockwork Orange, I tied together. It's also the same as Bitcoin Orange for the Bitcoin reset theme that we've been going over in all my videos. So I better show you before I talk at you about some of the Batman stuff and how it relates to Ozzy. That's why I did suggest you go back and watch that video. So I did. It was only available for my patrons for a while, but now that Brighteon doesn't censor it, it's up there now too. So that's kind of where we're starting. We've got themes of mind control. We've got themes of mind control, right? And we have themes of why we can't speculate, but what we can definitely point to and draw some real serious conclusions about where the heck we're going with this. Okay? And so if you also look at my Patreon, the next video I did after that was all about MK Ultra. It was all about the mechanisms by which it works and Jose Delgado's experimentations. And we started building a framework around the toads, right? And the toad symbolism. But I want to give you guys, before we get too seriously into the bat stuff, because it's going to go deep once we start the Mayans after this video, I wanted to, set you up with what the heck this knowledge is for. And the symbols that are in our site, they're all tied together with this V steganography and this big amalgam that we've plugged into this wider stream of information that we're also now able to interpret. And it's because it all matches up with these Gnostic underpinnings and symbols that have been left in our way for us to decode code for some reason. So I posted this video into my Discord channel. Also something for patrons. I have a Discord channel, right? And this is something that I've never actually heard of Tony Gosling. I've never heard of him. And I've got to listen to him more. But I want you guys to listen to what he says here. It's a really profound statement, and it's going to help set the stage for everything today too. So,
the Vatican has got a very twisted version of the Catholic faith. I mean, you find ordinary Catholics, fine, nice, genuine people, but this is where the little eye at the top of the pyramid comes in, isn't it? Well, we don't mind what people do down the bottom, but we control the top. That's the Illuminati. And whether or not there is anything called the Illuminati still around, people have got to be absolutely clear that this was a very, very genuine movement back in just after.
Yeah, but the original Illuminati seemed to be more of a rebel movement trying to change.
I don't think so. There's still, okay, so you get the Illuminati formed just after the abolition of the Jesuits, right? Cecil Rhodes, in his will, says, I want to form a secret society based on the Jesuit model of secret societies. And the Illuminati was absolutely fixed on two things, is the head and the heart. So they wanted to control and own politics through political parties, and they wanted to control and own religions. So
yeah, but this wasn't unique for that specific group that was called Illuminati. That was a very common way to organize back in the day around the revolution.
I think you might find, say, for example, Rosicrucians having similar ideas, but at the end of the day, the interesting thing about the Illuminati was the way that it was leaked at the time. And it's, that looking at that book, the John Robeson book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, is probably the best way to.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm going to have to go now, but fascinating chatting. And
so that was at the very end of this video. It was Forum Borealis. Forum Borealis has been posting some awesome stuff lately. He just, every once in a while, he just uploads like 6 videos in a couple of weeks, and it gives you hours of information to listen to. I posted one of the other videos that he did, or a podcast he did, to our Discord as well. But there you go. I don't know about this guy, but he's talking about the corporatocracy, the Nazi regime, and the Aryan society symbolism that goes all the way back in time to parts unknown and times unknown and places unknown, with the eagle symbolism as we move into the Fourth Reich. And he's talked about all the corporatism of the Nazis that's installed on top of our current system. And again, setting our intent here, the V steganography seems to be our way out, at least an opportunity for us. The Templars, those that belong to those Gnostic Templar sects, whether they came from an Essene background or a Neoplatonic background, Pythagorean background, these are all very, very similar but different, having that same serpent symbolism going through it, giving us the answer to break away from the money system, giving us an answer to break away from the metaphysics that have built around this. So, guys, remember, that's what's called the Maya. The Maya. It's this Vedic expression of the illusion that is the senses create. And that's where our studies are going to take us to begin today. And it's going to tie pretty directly into Batman pretty immediately. So you're going to start to see how this ties together. And then eventually, again, we'll get back to the Superbowl stuff by the end. But it's the work of Maurice Cottrell that we are going to look at here. And we're going to go through some presentations that otherwise you guys would have to suffer through me talking through entire books of. But the good thing is I've got his books right here, because if you also look, unfortunately, at the video quality of this, it is awful. It is awful video quality, just bar none. So I will have the pleasure of going back and forth through the books that I've studied and the presentations that he's talking about his own work with. These were recorded back in 2009, and part of the issue is he's doing it on an overhead projector. So this is definitely something that you're not going to be able to just listen to if you're somebody that just listens to my presentations. But I will do my best to flip back and forth between these as we talk about these concepts. But what we're going to tie in place we're going to start with some familiar Templar concepts, and you're going to say, what the heck, all this Venus stuff with Maya, what the heck, right? That's the first thing you're going to find. We're then going to, and I want you guys to think about, remember the Venus, the nous in Greece was the third eye between your brow. And the V is the thing that lays over the top of it, the template that blinds us from our divinity, locks us into all these material lies. Not really lies, but temptations is a better word for it, right? The pleasure is kind of a lie because it's not as good down here in the materium as it is beyond. So when we look at these concepts of the illusion of the Mayans, there's a reason why they had timing put into place. We've got the Fourth Reich. We got that we were talking about just a second ago with this video where Al interviewed Tony Gosling. And we also have the fourth turning, and we've got the fourth Baktun from the Mayan Aztec calendar, which we're also presuming, by the way. Remember, pointing back to the ritual. I see how it's all coming together, and I have to summarize this for you guys a little bit because we were presuming that the Mayans actually were talking about this year when they were talking, or 2020 rather, when they were talking about the reset of the calendar, which would make sense with our year zero and year one themes that we're going to be, and memes that we'll be picking apart. But I'll begin this presentation with that, with you guys just having that as a primer. We're going into some of these Mayan concepts that you're going to start to see tie together to our already deep researches with where we're going here in year one. So I'm going to let Maurice Cottrell speak for himself, starting the 6-minute video here. And of course, I will curate things in the book and show you guys as he tries to show up on screen. I'll pause and quickly divert back over, but here he goes.
Attach itself to a voltage which is equal and opposite to itself exactly. And it might be a worm for a month, and its voltage might go up, and it might come back as a mouse, and it might come back as an eagle, and its voltage will keep going up. And this is a problem. As our voltage goes up, in one lifetime we become more intelligent and more loving, because don't forget the body is the devil. And what the Indians tell us in the Bhagavad Gita is that if we have a look at the body, they compare it to 5 horses that represent the 5 senses of the body.
All right, and so here's the first image that I've got to find for you guys. I'm going to switch the camera back as I do this, of course. As you can see, these images are just absolutely atrocious that he's trying to put up here. And I did have the ones that are most important bookmarked, I guess. But what he's doing is and I may actually just go back to it if I can't find the color palette that I'm looking for in his book. But what he's essentially doing here, guys, to give you a little bit of a preamble as well, because I think I probably skipped the part where I told you where he's going to tell you what he's doing naturally, is he's an archaeologist that's looked at the actual reliefs, the Mayan reliefs that are, and the Tutankhamun reliefs, of course, that are inside the temples, the so-called temples. He's a symbologist. And really, he's a true scientist, because he looks at things in a different way, and the way the Mayans are telling you to look at them with the various clues of looking in mirrors, looking with illusions. And so what he's done is he's put together some of these images. Here's an example and I'm going to put it back down on the other camera of what those look like as he walks through these, and why this might be significant. And I say might be. Okay, there's a reason why I started with A.V. Adams, thinking, truth, fact, information, knowledge, all these definitions of things. Because as we go through this, we have to understand this is one man's work that makes some sort of parsimonious sense, but not necessarily we can take altogether as the truth, right? And I can't find the image, and so I do have the ones. I promise I have the ones that are important, dog-eared, bookmarked. And so I will go back to those periodically as I need to. But he's explaining the Bhagavad Gita. Try and see as best you can with what he's saying, instead of the depiction of what he's illustrating here.
And the reins are the intellect. The brain is the driver, and the soul is a passenger. And it's up to the intellect, the driver, to hold back the horses from running away. You see, we've got the eye, the nose, and so on each horse.
It's a chariot.
The eyes, the nose, the ears, the mouth.
With several horses.
If we use the mind to hold back the body, then we'll have a peaceful ride on earth.
So what he's basically saying there, guys, is if we use our nous correctly, by not letting the V succumb to it, we will have a peaceful ride. That's what the whole thing about the chariot is about, which is, if you look at the 7 major arcana card of any tarot deck, that's what you'll see too. I'm sorry that you couldn't see that visual as well.
So what happens is our voltage goes up as we evolve. We're here for thousands of years, millions of years we live for. We've been back many, many times. You guys especially at this conference have been back many. There are old souls and young souls.
Also a Gnostic concept that he's talking about here.
You're all the old souls, or you wouldn't be here. Not my words. We get to a certain voltage, but as we get to a higher voltage, we have more money and we're healthier, and we start to abuse the people around us. And so the voltage goes down the next time, and it's like being in an elevator in a tall building. You go from the 5th floor to the 2nd floor, 9th floor to the 3rd floor, 50th floor to the 12th floor to the 11th floor, and so on. And we can't get to the roof, to the helicopter to take us to heaven. And this is why we're in prison. This is a prison. This is where we live. And people say to me very often, well, how do we love our neighbor? Because clearly if you love, your voltage will grow. That's the key. Jesus had the key. And I said, well, it seems to me that the biggest problem to me in this world is that people have likes and dislikes. And the problem is, if you dislike something, if this is normal, if you like, if you dislike something, you could hate it. Disliking is a first step to hate. And that's the problem with the world, is hate. So it seems to me that...
So I do have these images that I can pull up for you guys. If you see here, I will get them up. Do you see these images? This is a concept in his book, actually talking about the vagus nerve and the affectation of the magnetic sphere of our Earth, and how this and the attenuation of it affects our behavior patterns too. And that's the image he's showing up there. So lock that into your mind as he's talking about this. And he's got a person with an auric field that he's also showing up there, explaining that concept. It's nothing new to anything that we've talked about in this channel. Of course, even going back to the metaphysical man.
We have to get rid of dislike. Get rid of this dislike.
Going back to the metaphysical man of our presentation over here, right? This is all the stuff that we talk about. This is the stuff we talk about with the chakra system, balancing the lambda there. Yep, there it is, and the V, to lock it into place, into your Merkaba, balancing your pillars of mercy and severity. And this only factors in the fire and the water elements, not even the air or the earth. And that's where the charge and the voltage also matters. These are concepts, guys, I want you to look at in terms of, remember, the trick that's played on us. He's saying that we've got to next break our dislike, is what he just got done saying, of these things in order to be truly free of them. Okay? It's a pretty profound thing to say.
Thing. It's no good to us. But the only way to get rid of disliking is to get rid of liking. And we have to get rid of liking. It might sound unpleasant, but we have to. So he said, well, I can't get my head around that. What do you mean? And I said, well, look, okay, take red peppers. Red peppers make me feel sick. I don't dislike red peppers. Lots of people enjoy red peppers. God made red peppers for all of humanity, and we're all different. And God's not stupid. If you think God would make something that's inherently bad, then there's something wrong with the way you're thinking. God is clever. And I know God is clever. It would be a slight on his intelligence to suggest otherwise. So I don't need to dislike red peppers. I avoid them. Simple. I don't like red peppers. I don't like bananas. I enjoy them or avoid them. It's simple. And if we get rid of this liking and disliking, then you can't dislike a person because you know God created them. God loves everybody, all 6 billion of us.
So do you see what he's saying there, guys? Hello to everybody joining the channel too. The real Neil Caffrey, welcome. J Ben, welcome. Glad to have you guys on the stream. You see what he's saying there? This is also what we've been professing this whole year of year 0, where we've been talking about balancing these concepts. It's to not react. It's to be non-reactionary. Yes, humans have this fully faceted vagus nerve system that gives us this full functioning, perspective-laden experience. And it's our goal, if you are of the Gnostic path, essentially, to ascend past that rigmarole, that Maya, that temptation that you keep falling into over and over, to reach God once more. And so who are the ones beyond even our senses that fight against us? The archangels that don't want us to ascend, right? Like what does the whole book of Enoch portend to tell us about the ascension process and how he went about it, right? So this is all the stuff coming together with Mayan calendar coming to fruition, guys. And the reason why we're going into this is to hopefully get a better understanding of what year 1 means for after the Mayan calendar clicks over, right? Do you see how I'm going through this stuff? I hope it's to get us to a better framework of acceptance. So with Allison's Kiyotsugi model, we can adjust and advance into the future. So I'm going to actually go to his page here. I've got to tee up the next video. What this guy Alex Barker has done is he's amassed these into a playlist. This whole presentation into a playlist, and so cool. There it is. So I've got to tee up the various clips that we're going to be talking about relative to Mayan calendar stuff, and of course render my commentary on top of it. But eventually you'll see what we're talking about. So Venus is a theme. As I said, Venus, there's our first collected theme that we're talking about that is of the Templars. What is that all about, right?
96, that's the number of magnetic sunspot cycles. 97, if you're going to count the one that includes the 18,000-year cycle.
So here, Maurice is going to go into some deeper numerology, as you can possibly tell, around Venus and around the symbolism that the Aztecs assigned to it. And what we're going to find out is some hits with our V-steganography and what's going on here.
The number of magnetic shifts, 20, if we're talking about magnetic reversal. The 13666040, if we're talking about rises and falls of civilization. And 136650, if we're talking about Venus. So we're going to go down to Mexico now. And we're going to have a look at the Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque. Because it was there in 1952 that the archaeologist Alberto Ruz took the paving slab off the top of the pyramid here. He scratched out the mortar filling from those.
So this is a pyramid here. I do have this one. I'm going to put it back on me while I get this out. So the Palenque is a famous site, just like the pyramids of Giza and things like this. This is a pyramidal structure which is in the Amazon jungle not the Amazon jungle, I think the Peruvian. The Peruvian. Here it is, Palenque. So I'm going to show you guys a picture of Palenque where he's talking about. He's going to show you a different picture, but you guys see Palenque right here, right? So, Temple Pyramid of Palenque, and what's basically at the bottom of this. He's going to show. Here it is from a different angle, bunch of different temple structures. These are the books he's referencing when he's talking about these researches. Oh no, that's Uxmal. That's a different site. So there's Palenque, guys, and he's got in his video, of course, a cutaway. Again, it's just terrible. He's got the structure of it. It's more of a cartoon shape, but then he's got what he's showing as a cutaway of a staircase that's going in down to the chamber. Okay, so that's what I want you to picture in your mind as you're watching this, and do your best to follow along with his audio. He's very descript, but it doesn't lend very well with the video component.
Holes, and he found a staircase running down inside the pyramid here, 26 steps. He then turned to his right along a landing and went down 22 steps. There was 4 more inside the tomb at the bottom, which he later discovered. So 26 altogether. Again, there was a brick wall at the end with a stone box. In the stone box, there was a pearl in a seashell. The pearl represents the planet Venus and rebirth in ancient civilizations.
There you go.
And some of the numbers the ancient civilizations used, like 666, the mark of the beast in the Bible, they used those to convey the information which we're talking about. And they also used 999. Well, if 666 is hell, what do you think 999 might be? Heaven. Yeah, it's a good idea, isn't it? Okay. Well, why would the pearl be in the cinnabar? Well, the pearl is Venus, and the atomic number of cinnabar, the powdered form of the liquid metal mercury, is 80. It means it's got 80 protons in the middle. So the pearl...
Or 6 plus 6 plus 6. You see all these intertwining 666, 999 riddles, guys. This is what we talk about so much. This is why in my latest decode videos, again, just going back, I keep going back to these ones with the reset ritual of Washington, D.C. for this year, and why that matters, of course, to the inauguration and the birth that we're going through of hopefully a disunited nation. This is all related to the mystery of Venus, the mirroring of things, the 666 that's apparent in all these rituals. Why does 666 not daunt anything? Well, it's just an identification number, right? Or it's an identification number for the knowledge pertaining to the materium. 999 is relative to the heavens, the spiritual realm, is what Cottrell is inferring here. This is, in my eyes, also interpreted from a Gnostic point of view, correct. I will disagree with a couple of the numerology things that Maurice Cottrell presents in these things, and I will show you when that is. But so far we're tracking, so I'm gonna get back to his presentation here about these key numerology numbers. Remember 26 and 26, or 26 letters in the English alphabet. So back to Maya.
Pearl in the seashell is number 81. Now I know that because when I was studying Tutankhamun, he had 143 pieces of jewelry inside his bandages. He was number 144 of the 144,000 that go to heaven, the purified ones in Revelation.
Here's the 144,000.
So the pearl in the cinnabar is number 81, which is 9 nines. 999999999. So immediately, has this tomb got something to do with heaven? The door to the tomb was triangular. They demolished the stone chest, which had 11 jade beads, 3 red painted shells, and 3 plates. And they entered the tomb in 1952.
This, guys, is the birth of
Alberto
Venus.
Ruz noticed that there was 5 beams holding at the ceiling,
right?
6 pillars on the wall, that the sarcophagus lid here had 2 corners missing.
So,
of course, what's missing?
I'm just gonna go over this real quick. Of course, he's talking about, I forgot to pull this up. I'm sorry, guys. The birth of Venus is the pearl and the seashell. Do you see this? Is the open seashell. This is more of a Greco-Roman era painting. I actually don't know when this thing was painted. I can find out, but we don't need to get into this now. It's the symbolism that we're concerned with. Do you see how it all matches up? Like the stairs themselves leading down to the Venus pearl the Venus pearl inside the shell. And the Mayans represent glorification to the goddess planet of Venus for the same reason the Templars do, because it came in, was captured by the sun, assumed orbit in a pentagonal perfect pattern, consistent with God's, Fibonacci structure of fractality in the universe. So there's no denying that it was supposed to bring balance back after the planet of the Aryan War beyond Mars was destroyed, right? Like, just as that theme, Venus is a very, very blessed planet, even to the Mayans. And we're sitting here thinking about all the Templar symbolisms here. Really cool, right? Well, where else is this leading us? Remember, the turning into the 4th age. Where are we going with this? I'll continue with the Venus.
Isn't missing if you're a Mayan. And what's not missing is missing. And the sarcophagus inside had one of the corners chopped off. So that was the sarcophagus lid. It weighs 5 tons, 12 foot long, 6 feet wide, solid limestone, so big they can't remove it from the tomb. And the body was kept in this sarcophagus, which had a missing corner at the bottom here. And the carving on the sarcophagus was very popular in the 1960s because Eric von Däniken said it might be a guy in a spaceship. But this was going to be much more than any of those things, because the triangular door represented a journey into the mind.
Journey into the mind.
When we examine the pyramid, just going back to that picture.
I'm going to show you guys the Tutankhamun tomb that he was referencing, where the corner was missing. Okay, the corner was deliberately missing off of this piece right here. Hopefully that it's basically a color image of what he was showing. He was going through his slides relatively quickly, even with his audience. So hopefully that just gives you a better understanding of, because this is his other book, the Tutankhamun Prophecies, where he's now referencing some other information from.
Picture we saw a few moments ago, the paving stone at the top, there were 2 holes in one corner, 2 holes in the other corner, 2 holes in the other corner, 2 holes in the other corner, and there were 2 plaster heads on the floor, showing the man in the tomb, Lord Paikal.
And now he's going back to the Palenque Temple.
That was one of
where
them.
He's talking about the similarities.
And that was the other one. There were 3 clay plates in the stone chest, 3 red painted shells, 3 sides to the door tomb, 3 jade beads. The man in the tomb, the bones of the man in the tomb, had a jade bead in his right hand, a jade bead in his left hand, and a jade bead in his mouth. And he had a necklace around his neck with 3 levels on it. There were 4 steps down to the tomb itself. The man had 4 jade rings on his left hand, 4 jade rings on his right hand. There were 4 pairs of holes in the slab at the top, and there were 4 concrete plugs or limestone plugs holding down the lid of the tomb. There were 5 pyramid landings, 5 temple stairways, 5 male skeletons, 5 ceiling beams, 5 sarcophagus sides.
So hopefully you guys see, of course, and actually to A.V. Adams' point in the chat, numbers were not always numbers. They were symbolic. This is correct. We still had the concept of counting, of course, but we didn't always represent them with like Arabic script, right? So the conceptual tonality or a resonance, or it was a more metaphysical concept and a conception of what these things are. And that's indeed what he's pointing out. Maurice Cottrell is right here, of course, is the 5-5-5 patterns. This is why I wanted to pause it. 5-5-5-5. Listen to all the fives. He's going over a lot of these patterns that, again, switch it over this. This is even, I found it. I did save it. This is that cutaway of Palenque that he was talking about, where the staircase goes down. See how god awful his presentation is, guys, compared to. And here's the sarcophagus down here, where they found the shell with Venus inside of it, the pearl. Okay. But the numerology here is going to be apparent to our V-steganography research when you take note of this.
There were 6 temple pillars, 6 sides of the tomb, but there were no more 6s in the temple at Palenque in Mexico. The numbers 666 were missing. At least they were missing until...
So 555 is very apparent, but then when the 6s come, it was very apparent that it stopped. Why was that, right?
We had a look at the necklace around the man's neck. And when we have a look at the necklace, we find out we have 13 beads, which is 6 plus 7. We had another 13 beads, which is 6 plus 7, and another 13 beads, 6 plus 7, which gives us the 3 missing 6s, 6, 6, 6, and throws up 3 7s, 7, 7, 7.
There you
There's
go.
another 7 there, but we're still missing a 7. Here we have 15, which is 7 plus 8, which gives us the last 7 and the first of the 8s.
I hope you guys understand this. He's basically using this image here. Here you go. In his book. To give us a better understanding, there we go, of where the missing numerologies are. Because as it states here, of course, here's the chart he was listing off of all the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and then 6s are missing. Well, where do you find the 6s? You find the 6s in the reliefs. You find the 6s where they're anomalies, right? Okay, so what are the pairs that we can match up to here? This plus this equals 6. This plus this equals 6. So it's a different way of assuming pattern recognition. And of course, this is what the Mayas were always telling us. It shows beyond the 5, you have to look conceptually. Does this make sense, right? He's what he's showing here is that the V-steganography is apparent directly in the Mayan script. You have to look where the puzzle pieces are missing to find the rest of the answers. Well, how do I know where the puzzle pieces are missing? You don't. You have to look. You know, that's the whole thing about figuring out riddles and steganography. But make no mistake about it, the Mayans are telling us that beyond the 5 senses, beyond the count of the 5 things that lock us into this realm, we will find divinity. We will break free of the non-knowing. The information will start flowing to us, using these, and we'll be on our way to truth using A.V. Adams' framework there for vernacular. But anyway, there is, again, a really, really crappy depiction right there. But we're going to go to the 8th video here. In the 8th video, from the beginning onward, we're just going further into Venus, and he's going to tie the Venus concept actually into Jesus, like we have as well.
Now, this Venus number, as I explained earlier, is slightly different to the sunshield number. And that's because if we look at Venus here, the morning star is rising. So as the sun rises that morning, we will see Venus on the right. But 112 days later from the Earth, Venus will actually be on this side of the sun. So the only time we'll see it is when it sets in the east. And then we'll see it left behind as a bright evening star. And when I went to Guadalajara, I saw this shrine in the temple there. And of course, Jesus said in St. John, I have said to you that I will go away and come unto you again. I, Jesus, am the bright and shining morning star. And there we see Jesus with Joseph and Mary with the twin planets, Venus, as a morning star and an evening star, with the bright star of Bethlehem above on his head. Now, once I started to decode all this stuff, I had another look at the carving on the lid, and it became quite clear that these people were geniuses. Of course, it was easy to just put down the sun in this design, and 2 dragons, which represents the sun, and a woman being licked by the sun god here for fertility. There we have the sun god in the middle of the Aztec calendar, And we also have carvings in Mexico.
Okay, here's where I can show you guys this image that he's pointing at too. So here is where he's showing some of these reliefs that he's taken on the wall. Okay, here's the fertility, the sun god, the cross. Okay, and what he's done is he's put these together off of the borders of the walls. Okay, so you see these matching points. So what he's done is, do you see the border here? This is a border of one of these typical reliefs. What he showed was that the corners were missing because this was the plate, remember, that was on the top of the tomb. And these were the plates that were missing on the top of that tomb at the bottom of Palenque. Remember, let me pull at the bottom of Palenque. In this tomb here, at the bottom of the well. Okay? And pretty deliberately, again, just like the beads, to look beyond where the thing where it looks as if something is missing, it probably is. Well, it's not missing. It was designed this way. Is what a normal archaeologist probably says about this thing. Yeah, there's something is the whole line is cleaved off. There is no corner on the tomb in the tomb either. It was designed this way. Well, yeah, and the Mayans always designed things to help you see, right? The duality, the mirroring of things beyond the senses. So this is where his research started. He tied these things together. He said, okay, there are very specific patterns here, those dots that all line up he was talking about. And there's a code. There's a similar code he's mentioning, he's looking at here. So what he does is he makes them transparent and matches up these corners in this fashion until he arrives at overlapping pictograms like you see here that end up getting quite complex, but that show a story. Here's one over here too, and we're going to get into these stories, but this is what he's showing here and how he came across interpreting what these symbolisms were when he was putting these things together. And of course, this is the exercise of looking beyond the senses. This is what the Mayans are attempting to tell us to do with these complex works, just like the Egyptians. It's a very Egyptian practice. It's much like steganography. It's basically a cipher in plain sight like steganography. But we're going to go back to his presentation here, just showing you the visual again. Sorry that I have to do it this way with him, guys. These presentations were so crappy that in audio and video quality, these early ones, the ones later in the presentation, they must have changed the bulb or something in the overhead projector, because after the intermission, like, he comes back and you can see everything all of a sudden. So this is that picture again.
Of the sun, trying to tell us that the sun was killing us. The sun's rays.
The sun's rays, the grand solar minimum.
Here to die, and the babies had a circle on their chest representing the sun. Solar babies here.
Okay. So again, guys, going back over to this, the sun and its rays coming down, boom, spilling the blood. He fills this in over here in a different way with something, but this is the picture he's showing. This is why he's highlighted these with these colors here.
So we have babies, and we have the sun, which was killing the babies because of lack of fertility and because of X-rays. And the sun god, his tongue's out, and he's licking the female to make her more fertile. So yes, clearly we could have a picture like that.
And of course, this is why things are tied to the sun. The gestation cycle, what you'll also find out is that the gestation cycle of the uterus, also called the menstrual cycle, is tied to the sun, not the moon. The sun's orbital polar shift is also 28 days. So we get it conflated that the moon causes the moonstral cycle. It's all spell casting. It's all spell casting. It's the sun, stupid. It's the sun. The sun does everything. And that's also what the Mayans are showing here with us, is the sun controls fertility. So we're learning even things from the pictograms that science doesn't agree with because they're too dumb to look beyond their own five senses. That's the problem with academia. You have a lot of people looking at that moon controlling things when it's just like a transceiver for other things. right? Anyway, back to his presentation here. I'm going to get to the next one here, number 9 out of 10.
Slightly.
Because here, at the 2-minute mark, I've got marked down. He starts talking about this is where the Mayans correct framework on the calendar starts coming into perspective here. So I showed you the early stuff before I showed you the bat stuff to show, the Mayans are in line with the Templars. The Templars are just carrying on Mayan stuff. Where'd the Mayans get it from? Well, remember, Mars goes way back before any of this stuff. Before Atlantis, before Maya, Azteca. It goes way back in 300,000 years ago or so, right? The Aryans are all we really know as our most recent Earth history. So we've got to cut through all of this, and the Mayans are all tied up in this because the knowledge came from the Aryans. And so it looks like the Druids, Templars, Mayans, Egyptians, original. These guys are all of that Hermetic order, Hermes, trying to restore the knowledge, the Gnostic knowledge to get back. So it's also a goal, I think, of course, to go rebuild their planet and all this. But we've tied this together with the Mayans. Now we have to listen to what the Mayans say with a better context for our framework now, right? And this is where it gets interesting, because the Mayans have some more illusions for us that hit with this whole COVID fiasco nightmare with the bat virus, with Batman year 1, as we're going to find out. Well, what does it have to do with that? Here's where it goes.
So yes, clearly we could have a picture like that. We'll be taking a break in just about 10 minutes. I just want to show you one of the miracles before you have your whatever. The next picture we could say, I haven't even started yet, we could say that this particular picture, if we colour in different parts of that design, represents the age of water by this lady here, Chalchi-Witliqui. She was a goddess of water who wore a jade skirt.
This is still that same pictogram where the sun comes down, and he's just colored in different quadrants to show other things that are depicted other than that. The Mayans are very complex with their symbology.
So maybe this is Chalchi-Witliqui in the bathtub, holding a lily leaf in her left hand. Well, if that's Chalchi-Witliqui, the goddess of water, who ruled the age of water for 3,740 years before the world came to an end because of the flood, maybe this eagle could represent the Ecatl, the god of wind, when the world was destroyed by hurricanes. And maybe this stylized representation, could represent Tlaloc. There's lots of carvings like this.
So here, guys, I'll show you again because I do have this one up. Here it is. Right here. This is the one he's showing. The eagle up here. I can't pronounce her name. Chalika Clay. I don't pronounce these names very well, but there she is, the goddess of water. And of course the lava underneath. This is what he's depicting in his presentation, just so you can get a little bit clearer view, because his overhead projector does suck so bad. And there's the one on the left where everything's colored in. Here we go. We'll go back to the presentation for him.
In Central America, with his distinctive teeth and his ears and so on. He was the god of rain, but volcanic rain, when the world was destroyed through volcanic eruptions. And as we've already seen, this could be the sun god when the world was destroyed by the sunspot cycle. And if we look at Mayan mythology, perhaps the lid tells us other stories of where we go when we die. One of the stories says that there's a place called Tamawanchan, where the babies go when they die. So maybe this area here on the lid represents Tamawanchan, the place where dead babies go when they die. Maybe this area represents Adam and Eve, of course, one of them's missing.
These are all maybe,
that's
maybes,
not so
of course.
certain.
I don't know if I agree entirely with all his conclusions on the quadrants. I do with his, hey, Shaft, good to see you. Glad you joined the stream, man. I do agree with a lot of his cyclical turning conclusions, but not so many with where he's just rapid firing. Yeah, this could be this could be that. This is part of his presentation where he's not very definitive on some of this stuff. So take those last statements he made with a little bit of a grain of salt, I think.
There are some corn seeds down here, so the archaeologists tell us. Maybe those corn seeds represent the paradise called Chincalco. That's where women went who died in childbirth. Perhaps this is a woman dying in childbirth going to that paradise. So this particular picture tells us about all of the other paradises. Now, the Popol Vuh, the book of the Maya, it begins and ends with the same words. The Popol Vuh, the original Bible, as it is called, cannot be seen anymore. The book was written long ago, but now it is hidden to the searcher and to the thinker.
The original knowledge is hidden to the searcher and to the thinker. Ooh. So the Mayas actually had framework for their understanding of the universe that goes back to the Popol Vuh. This is a very, very old manuscript, like pre-Constantine. Very well-preserved knowledge relative to what we have now. But how do we really even validate it? That's tough. Like, I've never even gotten my hands on one of those things. I just know what it is. I'll let him continue here.
Very cryptic beginning. And it says exactly the same thing on the end. The Popol Vuh, as it is called, cannot be seen anymore. The original book was written long ago, but now its sight is hidden to the searcher and the thinker. Now, I want to just briefly do an experiment with you to show you how the brain works. If I asked you a question, that's a picture, a jigsaw puzzle picture of an English country garden. It's not very...
This is actually a good exercise, guys. This right here is a really good exercise. And you can see it well enough that I don't even think I've got a representation of this. I think it's unique to his presentation. But really get what he's saying here. He's saying right here before, for what the Mayans are saying we look at in this age of the fourth turning. Are we looking for anything truly? Or do we need to step back and let our third eyes, our nous, do the work, right? Again, I throw that in there. But pay attention to this concept he throws out there.
Very clear because the projector's awful. And I said to you, what's so unusual about that picture, or different, or special? What would you say to me? Well, the brain doesn't like questions like that, because right now it's going one way, it's saying, what's he talking about? What's so special? I don't understand the question. What does he mean? Let me ask you another question. Here is a picture of an English country garden. What's so special about that picture? Pictures are missing. The pieces are missing.
And you guys can see that clearly enough. The pieces are missing. And so in this way, I hope this makes sense to you just by a manner of showing. The Mayans are saying to look beyond the senses. It's not impossible. We just have to know what patterns are real so we can see which ones are anomalous. And that's the trick. That's your insertion point into thinking beyond the five senses, into critical thinking. And that's, in essence, what we use with this pattern of the V-steganography. It matters a lot in terms of what we are able to decode in this time of uncovering the Maya. And it is a little bit of an instruction manual. And again, the Batman stuff hasn't even surfaced, but it's telling us what to look for in this time so we know how to interpret. This is where it gets, I mean, this is what we already do. But let him keep playing here.
You don't know how clever you are. Because you didn't see what was there. You can only see what's not there. You don't see me. You see somebody who's too tall or too short or too fat or too thin. Oh, he talks too fast. Oh, he talks too slowly. You don't see your son or your daughter. You say, why can't you wash the dishes and help your mother? Why can't you cut the grass and help your father? We only ever see the bits that are missing. So
isn't that interesting? What he's also said is humanity has been specifically tuned in to the pieces that are missing. And we focus and we fixate on those pieces that are missing. And we don't see the complete puzzle. So the mind control is so good that our propensity is even to look beyond and find those things, but we don't associate that there's anything wrong with them. So our perspectives and our hatreds toward each other and blah, 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 blah is what he's saying, right? Everything that is a temptation, everything of this materium, everything that is an experience of this realm is Maya. And we're really, really good at fooling ourselves with that.
I want to leave all of this information so that when I come back in 3,000 years' time, I can find it again. So how am I going to do it? When I went to Palenque, I said to the guide, where are the two pieces off the corners?
Here's his two pieces on the corners.
He said, I'd never noticed. And I can understand why, because this is so big they can't get it out of the pyramid. But the archaeologists are really switched on. They've made a replica in the museum just around the corner. But they fixed the corners. Because they weren't there. So if you go to the museum...
Do you guys hear the madness in that? Remember the corners that I just showed you that were missing? The original archaeologists that went in to catalog this site, when they took in the replicas, they just, we'll just extend it. It doesn't look right, and we don't know why they're missing, so we'll just add corners onto it. This is how stupid academia is.
In Palenque, you'll see a fiberglass model of this, just 100 yards from the pyramid, and the corners are perfect. But when you go into the pyramid, you'll see them missing. What's not there, and what is there is missing, because I understand the Mayas. Now, this is why now you'll understand my frustration with this projector in a few minutes.
Here, and before he gets this frustration again, I'm gonna show you again. Here it is with the missing corners, and here's the relief on this. And what he's going to do is I'm going to explain this process to you before he gets into it. Remember, I was sharing with you that he was reflecting the images about themselves with projectors. This is why he's using a projector for his presentation, because this is a transparent replica mirrored like a Rorschach on top of its other image. And as he rotates this about the other picture, different images start to pop up that start to depict certain things with certain bat symbolisms for the time to come. And why else is this important? Is because each one of the ticks that he moves these things by are by sacred Pythagorean angular construct. So again, I'm using specific language because the Mayans understood mathematics to some degree. We have a 36 degree, 108 degree, and a 72 degree significance for the Pythagorean pentagram, for instance, right? Phi ratio is included in its expression. Well, with this, and I'm starting to see that everybody's getting streaming issues, and that's probably on my end. I've got some issues here with my streaming capabilities here. But while I pull this up, while I see if the bandwidth catches back up, because everybody's blasting apart in the chat that this is happening to them. Let me go to why again. Here's the Pythagorean pentagram shape. Here's our 108, our 72, our 36, And of course, we're talking about Venus. Here's that pattern by which Venus orbits us relative to the sun in front of our little conical area of the system, as it were, right? But each one of these rotations that he's doing has a significant association to those angles on the sacred geometrical structures. So only when he locks these in from the reference points in place, and there are these little dots that are all along the reliefs that show where you need to reflect the images. It would seem it's an instruction, of course, for showing center of rotation. And you perform these rotations at 72 degrees or 36 degrees, etc., so on and so forth. There are other sacred measurements that associate with other sacred geometrical shapes too in the Mayan, in their interpretation of this. But this will give you those reflections that he's showing. So wanted to make that clear for everybody. That's something that's written in his books, and he doesn't necessarily talk about so much here in his presentation, but it matters just the same.
If we look at the pattern on the corner there, this is the lid. I call it the lid of Palenque. It's grey now because if it's not grey, the black lines interfere with the picture, so I had to turn them grey on the computer. Without the computer in 1985 and the colour photocopier, none of this work would have been possible. And I said to myself, if they're not missing, I'll just put those on top of each other just to show you that I'm not cheating. There's nothing there. I just coloured in a few colours and laid them on top of each other for now. But what I want you to look at is the corners right now. This corner, we've got a sort of star shape made up out of dots. And this one, we've got like magnetic lines. So I thought, if they're not missing, up slightly.
If they're not missing, they must be correlated to something, right? So
But they're not. Mayans worship the bat.
So here we go. Once he's lined these all up, I'm going to fast forward to the minute and 51 second mark. This is where he starts to see the curious patterns that we want to find out for ourselves. Hey, real nice Caffrey. Yeah, I do have a DLive. You can find me on DLive. I actually, just to take a pause and directly answer that. I don't have a restream that's set up right now. I was messing around with too much else, and my restream isn't appropriately set up with all the chats and everything I need it to, so it's deactivated. I'm only doing Theta for now. But the hitching issues you guys are experiencing, I promise you, I'm looking at my OBS and it's my end. It's an internet issue at my house. So sorry if you guys are getting the hitching. Theta is you know what I probably should also do? Here's a plug for if you're listening to Theta. I am running an edge node on my machine here, and that'll probably free up some space if I just collapse the edge node for now. Anyway, we'll see if some of those things helped out, guys. I just swapped them out, but yeah, there's probably the issue right there. Everything just went back to green. I just shut off the 3 edge nodes I was running on all 3 machines around me. And I think that's the culprit. So there you go. Edge nodes work for internet theta fuel, but they eat up your internet bandwidth when you're trying to stream. You live and you learn. Sorry for the segue into that, but I do have a DLive. You can anticipate these are going to be streamed probably starting next week to DLive and Twitch and to Float and YouTube. Instead of just Theta. I'm just getting the kinks worked out for my new equipment setup. But go over there. You'll find me. It's the same moniker, whether it's a space or an underscore or no space at all. It matters on the platform only. But back to the patterns that we're finding in the Mayan paintings. Okay, I remember I was just explaining for everybody that was experiencing those video hitching issues, the slides by which that he was able to rotate these patterns, Maurice Cottrell, that is, when he was reflecting these things about each other to find what the Mayans were telling us, proved significant in terms of what he did end up finding. So
we put them together, has got these composites of the Mayan gods. But we have to line up these dots every time, exactly. And also another picture, when we put the borders together, is a picture of a bat.
There we
and
go.
the Mayans worship the bat as a god of fertility.
The Mayans worship the bat as a god of fertility. So the sun, the coronavirus, remember the corona of the sun? It was the bat virus. The Mayans are worshiping the sun and the bat because what's the commonality? The sun gives fertility. So the bat is associated with some sort of solar symbology relative to our time, right? The sun right now is affecting fertility of certain things, is what we can infer from this at the end of the cycle of the fourth turn, the fourth Bach tune. These types of themes are all playing out, right? Are you starting to see why I have to go through this really big preamble, I hope, guys? Gosh, being over an hour in, hopefully this is starting to click in place for you.
So if we take a look at that and we say, okay, we've got some pretty nondescript pictures around the outside. It could be anything. It could be something from the grocery store. You say it's a dog with bones in its teeth. Who cares? Fine, okay. I'm going to have to ask you to look at this one now a little bit more closely, because what's so special about that picture? Now that is a difficult one. Apart from the missing corners, of course. Now, so I said, well, I don't know because I've never seen one before. So, okay, I'll start here. And this is what I did for 10 months. I started there, and I thought, what could that be? And I thought, I don't know, I've never seen one before. I thought, what could that be? Never seen one before. What could that be? Never seen one before. Eventually, I got to the last bit, didn't I? I had to start at the wrong end. And I said, what's that? That's a bit unusual. I've seen one of them before. That's a man. It's a man's head, that. Isn't that interesting? So I thought, well, I've not seen one of those before. It looks like he's got a banana on his nose. I've never seen a man with a banana. Must be a mistake. How can I get rid of the banana and make it perfect? Because we are born to make ourselves perfect. Easy. Don't need rocket science to work this out. I could get some scissors, but I haven't got any. It's 1,000 years ago, remember? Tipex. No Tipex. I've got this, haven't I? I've got that. I wonder if by using that, I could get rid of the banana. Yes, I can.
So he's just experimenting with...
All I've got is two guys with their noses touching. Can you see that? Are you sure it's important? You can see, okay. Let's have another look at the picture. What's so special about that picture? He's got a banana on his nose. What are we going to do? We're going to get rid of it. How are we going to get rid of it?
And again, guys, I'll show you what he's looking at here. He's looking at the very tip of this guy's nose, the guy that's sitting in the altar. And he starts to get into the rotation into this area right here, where the bat god overlay. And the corresponding border code where it has another bat that shows what age this manifests. And this is, of course, what I'm leading into. We don't need to actually follow the rest of his presentation here. If you guys understand, do you guys see where, again, this is the bat god depicted. So he finds several instances of the story of the bat god coming out and affecting fertility. And in fact, there's this jade mask. There's this jade mask that's found of significance because each of these shapes on the mask itself seem to, when you overlay its relief on top of one another, just as you do with the paintings, you get other bats. You see the wing of the bat that comes down. It's much easier to see on this higher resolution. Here's the relief of it down here. It's basically a bat with its wings enclosed on itself. And you also have the Quetzalcoatl mysteries, where the man, where Quetzalcoatl is holding on to the wings of the bat, and the feathered serpent is basically splitting the consciousness apart. So you have all of these things of the split also happening. The Enki and Enlil split, right? The feathered serpent eagle, where you have a serpent that has the wings of an eagle. They're both bloodlines put together. And at the end, there's this split, or at the beginning, there's this split. Depends on how you look at cycles. It's probably both. If you think about Enki and Enlil, how the brotherhood of the Anunnakian gods, and how one went one way to become the Druids and one went one way to become the Nazis. This is our Aryan ancestry rooted into the Mayan mysteries now. And Batman. And at the end and at the demarcation line, we will get this bat mystery, right? Why is Batman involved in this? Well, if we're in year 0, Batman, the year 1 comic, if the Batman is supposed to rein in this new cycle, what does year 1 Batman have to tell us? That's what we're going to investigate here in kind of the second arc of this presentation. Until we do that, I'll give you a little bit more background on the Mayan bat god, Comazots. So this is what is being referenced as that god of fertility. So the Templo Mayor, located in downtown Mexico City, has an adjacent museum, blah, blah, blah. So here we go. Comatose is described as an anthropomorphized, leaf-nosed bat. This has led to the conjecture about the source of the myth. Some believe the ancient peoples based him on the common vampire bat, or Desmodus draculae, a much larger species, both leaf-nosed as well. Both of these species inhabited the area of Oaxaca when a bat deity was first mentioned in the cult of Zapotec tribe. The Zapotecs believed the bats represented night, death, and sacrifice. This was likely due to the fact that the bats would inhabit the caves around the sacred cenotes, which the Mesoamericans believed were portals to the underworld. Portals to the underworld. So having something to do with looking beyond the senses in some way. I'll continue. It would be a very chilling sight at dusk when all the bats would swarm out, and these portals would begin. I don't know, but I don't know if this has anything to do with anything. This just seems like bullshit to me. But here we go. This is the part I needed. The mythology represented by the mythology of the Quiche, though they merged with him they merged him with their god of fire, Xotzalaha Chamalcan. The Popol Vuh, there's the book he was talking about, describes Xotzala as with the name in the House of Bats in the underworld, where the hero twins were forced to spend the night by the lords of Xibalba. The legend is that the hero twins slept inside their blowguns as protection from the bats, referred to as Comazots. Remember, when the bats went silent, Xbalanque asked Hanapu to check at dawn to check if dawn had come, and Hanapu did so by poking his head out of the tube. But in fact, it was not yet dawn, and one of the bats took the opportunity to swoop down and rip away Hanapu's head, leaving him decapitated. So, this is basically saying, with the bat at the end of the cycle, there's protection that's required. Don't pull your head up too soon, and don't play the part of the fool. This is the two parallel paths of humanity incarnate in the myth. Do you see here where you've got the two twin brothers? You've got an opportunity to, are things safe? Be the fool, get your head lopped off. Cybernetic future. That's exactly what they're doing, lopping your head off to store your engram of your personality, your memory, whatever they think that they can store somewhere. Just like the game Cyberpunk 2077 is depicting, that's the way you'll go. You'll get swept up. You get swept up in the lie. You'll get swept up in the Maya. Okay? So we also have this page that I found that was really good. Comastos being depicted here as a giant bat with wings, just like this. This is kind of how they would look at Comastos. And there's actually even a character in Batman called the Man Bat, which we won't get on today, that is very much in this vein, looks in this vein. And so Comastos is a demon in Mayan mythology, taking on the form of a giant bat, resides in the House of Bats in the Mayan underworld. According to the Mayan myth, the gods protected the Mayans, keeping all demons confined in the underworld. In return, the gods required an array of human sacrifices. When the people began to resist the gods' demands, the gods punished humans by releasing Comazotes, wiping out the human race. The gods then created a new human race that would become more obedient. Whoa! So there's that component too. There's this wiping out of the human race, the human sacrifice component. Eugenics comes into play with this when you start thinking about what the Nazi agendas are. So you see what we are led to. We have Aryan bloodlines. What we're led to as a temptation is toward this materialism, and we're just sacrificing ourselves to the bat god with all of our misdeeds, with all of our materialistic deeds. So there's an ongoing discipline this year that's going to have to do with Batman. And you guys probably saw as I was going about my my studies earlier here. We've got Batman Haunted Night, the Batman The Long Halloween, and Batman Dark Victory. They're all the Jeff Loeb and Tim Saleh or Tim Sale. I don't know how you say his name. They're all of those series that they wrote around the concept of Halloween and calendars. Okay, and so since we are in year one, and these all roll around the concept of calendars, there's even this image, and there's a villain called the Calendar Man in The Long Halloween that we're going to look into further throughout the year. I'm not going to go deeply into these ones today, except to show you that we've got some Batman things for ourselves in real life to be aware of in year one. And as a marker for not getting our heads bit off, like, remember the Ozzy Osbourne ritual of the album releasing last year. Remember, go watch this video and see what the mind control of the bat is really all about as it pertains to V and Lambda. So we don't go divert off some paths here. But we don't want to get our heads bitten off, right? Couple things right out of the gate. In the news, we already can confirm that we're in year one. I got referenced this article, of course, in the Discord channel by Womp Womp. Samsung's talking about moving their facility to Austin, Texas. And so many companies are. Austin, Texas, remember the Lone Star State. We've got pentagonal sorcery going on there. This is, where NASA was launching rockets from in Houston. But Austin, Texas specifically is the capital of the Lone Star State. And so that's where all of these so-called money-changing, market-making companies are moving to. We've seen en masse chip makers, Wall Street firms, manufacturing, all moving to Texas. Samsung's one of them, apparently. Samsung owns a huge part of the Theta project, the Theta.tv project, of course. So what the heck is this all about, truly, right? This is just one of several of these stories, like I'm saying. And Austin, of course, if you've ever been to Austin, you'll know that they've got bat watching that you can do under the Bat Bridge, the famous Bat Bridge. And they've also got the building that resembles what some call the Owl Building, right? But the bats are the sight to see here in Austin. All right, and they live under Congress Avenue. I used to take business over to Austin all the time, so I've been there, seen these bats. It's actually quite a sight. There are over 1 million of them that live under this bridge, apparently, and I mean, they're very numerous, or at least in the area. There are a bunch of them. Yeah, 1.5 million bats. There it is. 1.5 million. So Austin has this attraction of bats in its own backyard, and it's in Austin and the surrounding areas, San Antonio and Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth area even, they're drawing all this attention to it. So Austin, Texas is where Samsung is specifically moving to. Other companies are moving to other areas, but there's one of the key markers that I'm pointing at for some of the things bat related that we're going to be going through here today. What else you might have remembered as of late is that we had the Owl building in Austin, but the AT&T building bombing, the Nashville bombings earlier in the year, or later in 2020 rather, indicating what? Some changeover. There's some telecommunications fuckery that's going on basically with the Dominion voting fraud that was proved here. Of course, 333 Commerce Street. We don't need to look into the numerology components of this here necessarily, but 36 degrees north is where it's located at. That's significant to the Pythagoreans as well. Cerberus Capital Management I showed on Corey's show is probably related with the whole voter fraud fiasco. But beyond the voter fraud, what you can look at in Derek's video here, the Nashville explosion, the Batman Venus riddle, he did a whole video about the connection to the football playoffs, Venus, Batman, and the bombing that happened in Nashville. Also related it back to another member of the Justice League, Wonder Woman, in the 1984 movie that the Wonder Woman released. I recommend you watch this decode video. It's dry. It's a bunch of numbers. It's a bunch of shapes. He does a pretty good job, though. He does a lot better job than I do, I think, even of lining out specific items as they go next to one another. Not exactly my style. He does this like side by side type analysis. The reason why I show you this just as a preamble is because I don't want to get weighed down. He did an awesome job of pointing out a lot of the 77s and 119s that we were looking at last year with the year zero rituals. So clearly there's a tapestry that's connecting these two. And remember the Wonder Woman 1984, Orwell's 1984, Apple's 1984 commercial that launched in the Super Bowl. We're heading toward the Super Bowl riddle at the end of this, guys. Heading toward the Super Bowl riddles. So I want to get through this so we can get there. But before we can, I need to share with you guys what over in the Discord channel.
So now that Joe Biden is
what Womp Womp showed me. I'm not on TikTok, so he shared this thing with me where he found one of the U.S. senators who has a big Batman fetish, and how he connects with Batman himself. And so we're going to look into him and see what he might have to do, because this is one of the most curious synchronicities I've ever had in my life, where he just sends this over to me as we're doing this Batman thing, as I'm doing the research for it. And so I'll just let it kind of speak for itself, guys. Here's the little TikTok video of Patrick Leahy's Batman connection.
So now that Joe Biden is officially president, Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont is now Senate President pro tempore, which means he is the third in line for the presidency. And if you feel like you recognize this man, it is because he has appeared in not one, not two, but 6 separate Batman movies. Most famously, he plays the party guest who gets accosted by the Joker at the Wayne Manor party for Harvey Dent. That's him up there. He also plays board member number 2 in The Dark Knight Rises, a senator in Batman vs. Superman, and he plays himself in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. He also did the voice for the governor in Batman the Animated Series. All the royalties for his roles have been donated to the Kellogg Hubbard Library in Vermont, where he first started reading Batman comics as a child. This man has appeared in more Batman movies than any one actor playing Batman. And this man is third in line to be the president.
Whoa, crazy, right? Crazy. So we have the president pro tempore locking right into the Batman riddles for us to pay attention to, right? What are we supposed to look out for? What if we can use the Mayans as an example of looking beyond our senses to see what does this portend for us, right? Don't get your head bitten off. Don't get your head bitten off this year. Maybe is one of those don't shoot your eye out pieces of advice that we need to render to people. But one of the reasons why I thought this was interesting too is if you go back to our thread, I was mentioning what did I eventually? Yeah, we were talking about the Leahy Law, right? So Leahy Law got passed in '97. I did some research. I was just looking into this, and I'll show you guys this in a second. What this Leahy Law is, but essentially lets the government determine when a country is no longer eligible for its support for whatever reason. Hides behind the veil of impunity by stating that only countries who violate human rights are at risk. But we all know this is not the case. This gave the government a means for Libya, Syria, Iraq #2 et al. All for controlling the money spigot. And then, of course, we've got this meme I put up of the Joker burning the money from the Dark Knight Rises movie. And I wanted to point this out because just like when he piled that money high in that movie, and this is going to be an ongoing I'm not decoding this part yet, guys. I'm just showing you. This is the money that's collected that was part of Carmine Falcone's operation, the mob boss of Batman, in this series, in The Long Halloween, where the money is being stacked high. The money is being controlled, and the Bat's on the case. So what does the Bat bring? It's the harbinger, is what I'm saying, guys. The Bat is a harbinger. Batman, year one is the harbinger of what? Our fertility for our mind, our fertility for our ideas, for moving on to a better reality for ourselves. I want to show you guys what Batman Year One's plot is briefly, right? Frank Miller, 1987 was the project, chose to characterize Batman Year One as an average, inexperienced man trying to make a change in society, because Miller believed a superhero is least interesting when most effective. Examples of this include Batman underestimating his opponents, getting shot by police, and his costume being too big. The story's violence was kept street level and gritty, emphasizing noir and realism. So what he's actually going at here in the Batman Year One thing is Batman's a fool. He's starting out on his fool's journey. He's the guy popping his head outside of the what do you call it? The blow dart tube in the Mayan example, and getting his head chopped off by bats. Bruce Wayne is that character. He's a little bit too. He begins his fool journey in Year One. He knows nothing. He has to accept that he knows nothing to keep progressing, and eventually look beyond the Maya. This is how all the symbolism of Batman, all the mythology of Batman, kind of plays out. And it's brilliant that it's laid out in the Year One comic like this. So that's the impetus of it. If you look into the plot a little bit here, it says Bruce believes he is unprepared to fight against crime despite having the skills he learned from abroad. He disguises himself as a homeless man to explore around Gotham's red light district, root chakra, right? Look beyond the V. But suddenly goes awkward after refusing a proposition from teenage prostitute Holly Robinson. She is reluctantly drawn into a brawl with her violent pimp, and is attacked by several of Holly's fellow prostitutes, including dominatrix Selina Kyle, which is Catwoman, of course. Eventually becomes Catwoman. Bruce gets the shit beat out of him, basically. Reaches back to Wayne Manor, barely alive, and sits before his father's bust, requesting guidance in his war crime. A bat crushes through a window and settles on the bust, giving him the inspiration to become the Batman. Bruce quickly rings up his butler, Alfred Pennyworth, to patch up his injuries and proposes the idea of saving Gotham as Batman. If you notice, he got the shit beat out of him by women. So it's this whole thing about the goddess energy coming. It's going to beat you up if you don't accept it, right? If you don't accept what's going to come here in year one in the reset, you might not so much enjoy it, right? Anyway, Carmen the Roman Falcone is the common bad guy here too in the Batman Year One comic that I don't have here next to me, but that's the impetus. He's Carmine Falcone. He's always the guy that Batman is overcoming in his origin story. Why is that? The Falcon, Horus, the Falcon, Horus the Hawk, Horus the Falcon. They're both represented down in Atlanta's sports teams, right? The Hawks and the Falcons. Then you've got the Seahawks that represent more of the Native American space tech component of it, as we've gone over. But anyway, this is what it's all about. It was about Falcone and overcoming those challenges. So the Leahy Law is something I would look into. There's this guy Leahy. This is why he, as the president pro emptor, is so prominently portraying the Batman symbolism here. What does he have to do with the faction and the Dominion voting fraud that were involved in the Batman building, right? I'll let you guys draw your own conclusions based on what you gather from Derek's presentations, because just like Zach Hubbard's, they go into the numerology aspect and they lock these things into place. But more than that, we've got some things happening. His Kellogg. What did I have here? Oh yeah, just a couple of other things. This is the thing before we move on. This is before we move on from Leahy. As we continue to look into him, there's got to be more to him than meets the eye, and I actually am doing further research on him. But the Kellogg Hubbard Library is where he donates all of his time to. It serves Berlin, Calais, East Montpellier, and Middlesex, and Worcester. These are all corollaries to towns over in the UK. And so actually what I was just thinking about this morning as I was putting this presentation back together is I hadn't yet plotted where all of those in the UK are to see if they like make a pentagram pattern or something like that, right? That would be kind of neat if that's what it's telling us. See you later, Hideric. Sorry you couldn't stay for the end of the stream, man. Appreciate you stopping by, though. But with this, there's a particular artifact that is that's depicted here. It's the Parthenon frieze, and this is actually something that I also haven't looked into yet too far. But this is the main attraction for his museum that he donates to. And it's basically, if you guys look at the Parthenon in Athens, along the top border used to be this frieze, which is a picture, like a big long tapestral carved picture of Greek symbolism. And now they've got this thing displayed in the museum where you can see a replica of it. And this is what's displayed there. And I just found it interesting. I'm starting to look into this. There's actually an Atlantis-themed Justice League cartoon where the Parthenon paradox, this Parthenon paradox meme comes into place, where it's in this movie, The Throne of Atlantis, where Aquaman, remember Atlantis rises from the ocean, and that theme basically takes over the earth to restore balance, and then the Justice League is formed, and that's what this whole movie is about. It's a movie, and I have to watch it, is what I'm getting at. There's a lot that I've read about this connection with this movie, but the fact that it is Rise of Atlantis, and the Parthenon frieze, and Batman in year one. Why is Atlantis important? We've already talked about that with the Edgar Cayce work, of course. If anybody doesn't understand that, go to my now Brighteon page and go back to actually this section, Atlantis Rising. This video right here, the last Atlantis Rising, and all the Edgar Cayce suppositions that we've made on that front will start lining up for you. But more importantly than that, this is where our Super Bowl connection comes in. Because Atlantis is rising from the Caribbean, right? Right? Where's Tampa at? Well, Tampa's right there on the Caribbean border. Hey, Jay Camden, nice to see you in the stream. Maddie Devine says Montpellier is a university town in the south of France, halfway between Nice and Bordeaux. He's pretty sure. Okay. Well, that's what I'm attempting to find out, Maddie. That's what I haven't done yet, is plugged those things in to a map. And I think I found a representation of Montpellier in the UK, but maybe the one that is more significant is the one in France. There was a lot of cross-pollination of people migrating over the Basques back then when the hubbub was happening with the Celtics having to move westward to escape basically their prosecution. Whatever you want to be called burning at the stake. I'm trying to think of a good like neutral word for it. But either way, this is where we get our connection to the Super Bowl, guys, because of course the Templar ritual is culminating in this. And again, the Chiefs were the only team I didn't correctly pick to win the matchup over the playoffs. I was perfect otherwise in all of my picks. If you went back to the beginning of the playoffs, I think some of my friends in real life ended up making some bets and won some money, basically because I was telling them what I was seeing, and they're like, "Yeah, why not?" Right? That's good. I don't do it myself. I'm not a gambling man, but this is where I want everybody to be keenly aware. The Templar ritual is at play. The V steganography tells us that Super Bowl 55 is important, right? 5 and 5, and of course 55 is the 10th triangular number, and it's the 10th prime number. So it's also Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl. And if you recall back from the beginning of the season, this is where we started. The Jolly Roger and the Q mystery tied with the Templars and the Venus families. And we were talking about Tom Brady moving from the Patriot faction to the Templar faction, like from the CIA to the Pythagoreans, essentially, right? Is what we're reading into this. And so since we correctly identified all the rituals up to this point, this is just another marker for us to keep in mind. One thing that I got off is that I thought the Bills were going to be in the Super Bowl. And until this play happened, I didn't really quite understand why the Bills weren't going to be winning. Because I said, man, I thought I decoded this thing. If you recall, the Nikola Tesla's technology, I did a video on Patreon at some point a few months back where before we got into the entire story arc of the Pythagorean sciences, and it was like the theme at the time was the hidden technology of Nikola Tesla. And I was showing you guys how he had in his inventions, at least the mathematics and the understandings go back to Pythagorean metaphysics. Right here is the Patreon video that describes all that. And Niagara Falls, just like where his statue is, right, was his first invention, his hydroelectric dam. So right where he's commemorated right here, this is Buffalo, New York, where the dam is. And of course, I was showing last year in the Super Bowl ritual what was going to happen based on the floor ritual. So I'm going to go back to my video from last year and show what I was also seeing in terms of the next year's results. And this is the silver rig video that I did that I'll replay, where we're decoding the Wizard of Oz component of these rituals.
So anybody who's read his stuff and knows about the Wizard of Oz knows the Emerald City
is the theme here for, where the yellow brick road leads. And again, guys, the Bix Weir stuff is wonderful. I've got the sound turned off on the Super Bowl thing because it's going to get a copyright claim otherwise. So we're going to watch this without sound.
The copyright.
I'm guessing everybody can go get the Super Bowl video. I'll link this in the description too. But I'm starting it at the 8-minute and 17 mark because this is actually where the Emerald City ritual begins. And
Super Bowl halftime show.
This is actually where they're
year.
introducing Jennifer Lopez. I think back at the beginning, you've got Shakira. The one image that was striking with Shakira is that she was in rope. Some sort of bondage with rope right here. And she kind of cast it off. And of course, that goes back to the tarot, the devil card we've talked about with the X and the V steganography. We'll get to that by the end of the video too. But at the 8:17 mark, we have the Emerald City ritual starting to play out. And here comes Jennifer Lopez. And just like in the Tin Man analysis that Bix Weir does, you've got the silver kind of witch character here. And clearly all of the green Emerald City symbology. We're not going to go too deep into this stuff because we do have a lot of ground to cover. There's a ton.
And remember, the Emerald City, guys, if you're following what Wizard of Oz is, the Emerald City is the construct on top of the mind, right? It's the construct on top of what we're supposed to see.
Cover here, but she does this whole cross ritual. She, like Silver's kind of, crucified up here, and all of these people down below are the slaves. That's what the bondage with the devil card was all about, was the bondage. You have all these people enslaved by the silver rig. And I'll pause it right there. That's our first term of the day, Sesame Street style, silver rig.
Here's all the gematria that matches up from last year.
Concepts we've covered in the channel, I've already pointed to in my playlist, The Star of David, which is the Merkaba. This is the energy structure underneath the earth that Cliff High's talked about, where he talks about Samuel Warren Carey's work, the expanding earth, Nikola Tesla, the Star Wars program, and also all of these are 119, 119, 119, just like 9/11, the reverse of 9/11. When did the repo market start to collapse? 9/11.
I'm talking about banking ritual stuff here.
When did Nikola Tesla's...
So the banking ritual stuff is a little bit tied into this, of course. The Bitcoin reset. What is Super Bowl 55 even symbolizes as the end of a story arc, as we're going to find, my current understanding. Here, I'll let this thing play out again, but that's why some of the banking stuff is tied in.
Technology, Star Wars space program technology that was installed in the 80s in the Reagan administration under the Bushes. Like we've covered on this channel, guys, just again, watch the playlist. Using Nikola Tesla's technology, this is how they're tying in, of course, some of these gematria terms to these very rituals. But anyway, bondage of slavery by the silver rig kept the economic system is keeping everybody enslaved, right? So we continue on with this video. She kind of spins around, whatever here. It's worth me saying. She's singing. Waiting for Tonight. Waiting for Tonight is the song she's singing, and this was interesting to me because we've got this whole concept of year zero. And year zero is 2020. And we also know that the Super Bowl was on Groundhog's Day on 2/2/2020. And so you have
22 V is the 22nd letter of the alphabet, of course, the master builder number. All of these things I don't even think I mentioned in this.
Numerology of 22 on both because zeros get canceled out. So the year 2020 and 2/2, what is she waiting for tonight? What is the ritual saying? What are the wizards that are controlling these rituals saying about waiting for tonight? Is there some sort of transition regarding silver that happened on the 2nd in terms of markets?
Still yet to be determined on that one.
Another video that I'm going to reference is Greg Gammon here, and we'll go back to this after the Super Bowl video is over, but
I'm fast forwarding after this because after I explain this is where I talk for a couple more minutes, but this is where the significance of the Niagara Falls comes in. The Emerald City comes apart, and you can already see the cracks starting to form in the foundation.
of the Emerald City, right? Of the trick.
For tonight's the song, and all of a sudden, boom, the ground falls away. The emerald ground falls away, and a Tesla coil is revealed. Literally a friggin' Tesla coil. As if the old system is falling apart. Year zero component, right? And Cliff High's talked about this in his data, where the future, the 2020s, the soaring 20s, it's going to be a weird friggin' time. And Niagara Falls, this is all Tesla symbology, because you've got the Tesla coil in the middle, and Niagara Falls, the famous generator system that he built and intuited out of his dreams using the hydraulics of Niagara Falls. So we've got the Emerald City component. Seattle, remember, if
Seattle, everybody knows what happened there at the last of the year, but I wanted to show everybody that, which is the basis for why I thought the Bills were going to be in the Super Bowl. From that point forward, I thought the Bills were going to be in the Super Bowl. Basically, after that day, I was like, whoa, the Bills, Niagara Falls. Okay, this is who's the NFC team going to be then? And then this was all preseason, guys. I was like, oh, I see. And then I was following the storyline. You guys may have even caught my banterings on some of my later presentations as I was thinking out loud on these things before the season started. Tom Brady going from the Patriots to leave the Patriot faction into the Templar faction. It all lined up for me to say, oh, well, yep, there it is. It's going to be Tampa Bay and the Bills. So I was saying that the entire season, and I was correct to a certain extent. But what I didn't consider also is the fact that some of my analysis last year for the Chiefs would come in, and this play would be the indicator of that. My analysis at the Super Bowl last year, if you go to my Brighteon page and you check out the ones I was doing around this time, right when the coronavirus was basically kicking off, the Chiefs were represented as the commander-in-chief faction, so Trump, right, to beat the banking faction. San Francisco 49ers beat the gold standard, like going off of the gold standard, all the memes relating to the gold rush, as you know, like the banking system was all tied up with the San Francisco riddle from last year. So it's a riddle that's taken on a story arc of a few years to play out, but it culminated last night when I didn't consider, okay, of course we're thinking Biden's this weird presidency where I can't even confirm if he's ever been to the White House before. Is he actually still on a set signing these executive orders? It leads you to believe somebody is behind the scenes in power, right? Well, this is the play. This is I'll just push play
and
on
a game. He's just going to go right inside on a slant. And the problem here for who's guarding 24 Johnson is that he's got no help inside. He thinks he does, but the play fake in the eyes of Mahomes.
So he doesn't even score. But what was significant about this, if you guys saw him zigzag back and forth, is what they said was that he went a total of 1,025 yards, 102.5 yards, 102.5 yards. And it was number 10 that made the catch. Number 10 made the catch. Remember 55, Super Bowl 55 is the 10th prime number. It's the 10th triangular number, which means prime number is obvious to people, but triangular is when you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10, that equals 55. That's what the triangular number is. 666 is the triangular number for 36, right? So what you have here is 102.5 yards, and in numerology, of course, that reduces, you take the zero out to 125. 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 times 5. Do you remember back in this video, the ritual that we decoded, the shadow that's cast on the Washington Monument into the Ellipse Park is 1,250 feet long. There's another 125. 5 times 5 times 5. 555 feet tall is the ritual obelisk. So this is all connected, as I'm seeing now, to the ritual at large. And after this play, it all made sense to me. After this play, it all made sense to me why the Chiefs we're probably going to win. I mean, the 55 yards after the catch was the other giveaway, the dead giveaway, of course. But I said, okay, I know why this is. So what I did was I went back. I actually was talking to the same guy over in the Discord channel. I'll show you guys our back and forth here again. So I was saying, as this was happening, 1,025 equals 125, 5 times 5. As I said last year, the Chiefs are the commander-in-chiefs who represent Trump and the military. Is the message that they're still full force, and that's what's instead at play here, and that nobody knew it was going to happen? So after this, we talked for a second, and then I got the Super Bowl ritual back down here. So I put some more thought to this. So after thinking deeply about what's going on here, I thought the Buffalo Bills this year were just going to represent the release of the Nikola Tesla tech because of what I saw. But what I also saw instead was that I put some more context to this scenario, right? I told Womp Womp this is the product of thinking about the NFL playoffs this year. The teams that the Native American theme, the teams that have Native American themes to them all made the playoffs, is what I was telling him. The Seahawks, with their logo as the Salish tribe representation of a hawk, is on a totem pole. The Redskins from D.C., who stripped their name this year. So D.C. rebranded. The D.C. team no longer has a name. Just like in the reset rituals, we're talking about the coins no longer having names. Just like we're talking about the coins not having requisite United States propaganda on the back of them. Hey, K-Dax, thanks for joining the stream, dude. Good to see you. So what we're determining here is all of a sudden that we've got all 4 of the Native Americans in here, but the one that would be most obvious, the Redskins, the DC team, is just the Washington team. Okay, so all of them made the playoffs. I said the Buccaneers, who of course are no secret part of our ritual here for making it to the Super Bowl. The Bucs beat the DC team right out of the gate. Then the Saints, and this remember represents the fleur-de-lis cabal bankers who took over France in 1988. And of course, if we just go over to our I think I've got this up. While I look for this, yeah, maybe I didn't keep that up. I wanted to keep the 1988 Economist cover up, but everybody, 1988 Economist cover, I'll just put it up for everybody, just like I did with the Venus in the shell. This is the fleur-de-lis. The fleur-de-lis on top of the eagle, 10 cent, the 10, remember 10 cent being a huge component of the reset as a relation to the company 10 cent that controls TikTok and all these other things, the burning of the money system. A ton of ritual components are illustrated here pretty blatantly. And so what we're getting at with the fleur-de-lis here, therefore, is something pretty specific as well, that the Bucs beat the banker faction, which is depicting the reset theme. Then they move on to the G, the modern Masons, the corrupted, basically, all the brotherhood of Masons that are part of the problem, like we were talking about with the Illuminati coming out of the Jesuit order and all this. All the while, the Aryan Rams beat the Seahawks. Remember, Aries, the Rams are the sign of Aries in the zodiac. So the Aryan Rams beat the Seahawks, and the Bills were hunted rather than murdered by the Chiefs. So this is where I'm talking about, the Bills are prey for Native American chiefs, right? I mean, their logo is an arrowhead. They play at Arrowhead Stadium. Maddie Devine, the answer for Discord, yes, it's private to $5 Patreon members and above. You can find my Patreon link in the description below. But we do research there. It's research and actual discussions based on the research and such. And so to keep trolls out, we just gate it for the Patreon patrons. No reason other than that. Not to say like you can't join or anything, but that's the only reason why there's a paywall on it. Anyway, so now I'm thinking the Chiefs beating the Bills is more like hunting them, and when you kill a buffalo, you eat it, you consume it, you take its essence on. So the Bills representing the Nikola Tesla paradigm, I'm thinking the commander-in-chief faction may have killed the buffalo, which represents the Nikola Tesla tech future and the factual domestic history, which he also possesses. If you're thinking about Donald Trump, he also possesses this knowledge through his uncle, John J. Trump, who requisitioned all of Nikola Tesla's tech. So the Chiefs consume the essence, and in doing so simply get absorbed into the actions taken moving forward. So now the Chiefs are armed with this Nikola Tesla stuff. It would indicate to me that this would be a better result than the Bills making it to the dance, I said. So the Bucs and the Chief then becomes an intriguing matchup where if the Bucs win, secrets are revealed. If the Chiefs win, secrets are revealed. And the funny thing is I can't sense that the meaning of the game would differ much if either team won. But an added component I see is that the home game may be significant for the Templar faction, who would be using Tampa Bay right now as a staging ground to launch from and reclaim Atlantis as it rises from the ocean in the Caribbean in these times, just as Edgar Cayce said it would. And thusly, does Tampa become the new headquarters / proverbial capital of our efforts moving forward? DC, just like the Redskins being no more, had to change their name. So what I'm wondering here is the reason why the DC team had to don their name was to mirror in reality that the DC faction headquarters is no longer, and that our true base of operations would be moving somewhere else. Maybe it's not Tampa, but in general toward the efforts that Tampa is pointing at right now, right? In Atlantis. So anyway, I thought some more to this, and I said the Venus families and the Mayflower Compact, and this predates the Articles of Confederation. And so the OG Templars made land claim to the U.S. up in the Minnesota area. Of course, this is where I've been arguing the banking reset ritual has lasted several Super Bowls. Remember Super Bowl 52? The Glass-Steagall Super Bowl there in Minnesota, in a glass stadium, U.S. Bank Stadium, where the Eagles beat the Patriots. So this was the jockeying back and forth of this faction war, and the Eagles were absorbing the Patriots in that way. But it was kind of the last swan song of the faction. The Glass-Steagall banking ritual, of course, the Glass-Steagall Act, which Bill Clinton repealed in 1999, which allowed our economic system to collapse like it has, is depicted in that Super Bowl. So I have several videos that go back. If you go watch, in fact, if you go back to the Brighteon page and you do watch those videos that I was suggesting you watch, here, where is it? Yeah, I'll show you these ones. I talk about those rituals in greater detail. So you can find out much, much more about that just by going back there. But I digress a little bit. I got to get back, finish this video out. So we have our story arc for Super Bowl 52, in other words, right? Our Super Bowl 55. But this is where I continued with that as a framework and saying this is something that began back in Super Bowl 52 and perhaps as early as 51. The Patriots beat the Rams the next year after the banking collapse ritual in 53, where they were dominating the Mars agenda. So the Patriots, I figure, beating the Rams, the Aryan Rams, suppressing the knowledge of the Mars agenda. They, the Patriot factions, are the ones doing the suppressing alongside academia to keep the Aryan knowledge down. 54, of course, we already went over. The commander-in-chief beats out the banking cabal. And then here with 55, the Templars versus the commander-in-chiefs. If the Chiefs win, does this mean this is my question, right? Does this mean our command structure is gone and we go back to being true natives of the land? This is like our self-determination goal in our guild that we're forming in the Patreon channel, right? Would this mean we are chiefs of our own domain, in other words? Right? This would depict the dawning of a new way of absorbing the Templar knowledge passively by occult ritual. And it would also allude to the Trump faction still being alive and well to carry out the destruction of the United States, right? So this is how I'm interpreting if the Chiefs win. This is what the agenda of year one that we're so keen on Batman, of course, will be. And I'm wondering if Batman will play a part in the Super Bowl ritual in any way. And then I say, but if the Templars win, I like the possible interpretation better. At home, Super Bowl 55, of course, the V-Stag plays a part, may infer that the archaeology and secrets win out overall. And what was not apparent will now be apparent, leading us to the propensity for exploration, leading us to Antarctica, which ultimately leads back to Mars, our true history, etc. Either way, Super Bowl 55 is the climax of an arc that it could even be argued the Patriots faction winning Super Bowl 51 versus the Atlantis Falcons. This is what I was saying, the Horus, Falcon, Atlantis, Hawk. And by the way, in Super Bowl 53, when the Patriots beat the Rams, they did that in Atlanta. So they did this in Atlanta. So they're Atlantis, the Atlantis ritual is in place both by them beating out the Atlantis Falcons and suppressing that knowledge for more time, and them beating the Aryan Rams in Atlantis. Right? So this had always, and by the way, remember the Falcons like had the biggest lead of all time in the Super Bowl, and the Patriots still came back to win, and that was like the getting the rug tucked out from underneath us, basically. So then I said this has always showed to me that the Q psyop along the CIA and the Blue Chicken cult was come down out of nowhere to divert attention from the facts. Anyway, I told him I was going to make this into the presentation, of course, but those are my suppositions about the Super Bowl, guys. I like the results that we have either way of whether these teams win. Schaff even says up here, I feel like these are all rigged, but only certain percentage. That's why I can't be 100% predicted. I would argue to you, Schaff, that all professional sports are rigged. I would not argue that all college sports are rigged. But it is quite apparent to me that the professional ranks are. And only the big games in the college ranks are. I've applied my methods. This is how I've at least done it to myself to make it apparent. As I've applied my methods to all sports professionally, and they even interconnect. And that's what I'm about to show you guys is how crazy this is how these things interconnect. And using the reference point of something we already know to be rigged, and that's the WWE. This is going to be something that not a lot of people probably know about yet, but it's back to Super Bowl 55, playing at Raymond James Stadium, February 7th, 2020 is the game. First home game ever played by one of the Super Bowl participants. Here it is, the Super Bowl 55 page, February 7th. And of course, we already know SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, the Los Angeles Rams, again, it was supposed to be played on Aryan territory. It was supposed to be played in LA before construction delays on their stadium forced it to be rescheduled here. Okay, so nothing to do with COVID. But it was supposed to be played in LA. And so the Buccaneers, our Templars, have a home game. Well, what's interesting is I found out that 62 days later, on April 10th, WrestleMania is going to be held at the same venue. And check out what we have for our symbology here. Let me zoom in on this. Look at the logo for WrestleMania. Of course, Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, April 10th, 2021. WrestleMania 37. Interesting, right? Well, it gets even more interesting when you look, and this one was also supposed to be housed at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, however, was rescheduled because of COVID. So WrestleMania was actually also supposed to be at the same venue, the Aryans venue, but was rescheduled here. Why? I don't know. Because of COVID, they say, right? Yeah, I don't think that's the entire reason, as we're going to find out here in a sec. So you just do some simple gematria here. Let me show you what's interesting about this is that you type in Buccaneers, you get 37, just like WrestleMania 37, and you get 62, just like a 62-day delta between April 10th and our Super Bowl day of February 7th. Whoa, right? Guys, this is the ritual playing out. And I think it's hilarious that now we have something pointing directly at, oh, guys, look, here's something we can directly show you how it's rigged. Because the thing that everybody knows is rigged is directly tying itself to the five senses Super Bowl. Like, break your senses of this spell with this Super Bowl, right? It's really apparent to me that that's what's being said here. The V-steganography is our clue. I mean, we've all come to understand this. We've all come to use it to break the Maya, to break the spell of the bat year of year one. I don't know if we'll call it bat year. I like space aliens or bust or bat year or whatever you guys want to do. But we do have we do have these very apparent rituals playing out, and we're going to get some answers. If this is any indication, we're finally going to get some answers as to what's going on behind the scenes with our secret history revealed. And we'd best be opportune to take our self-determination path and keep building it moving forward. By the way, there's going to be some more stuff coming with the self-determination bend, guys. We're going to create better podcasting this year and involve you guys a lot more in some of the topics. Kadax, who's actually in the chat right now, he's going to help me out with some of the self-determination stuff. So the how we capitalize on this is going to come into view here pretty soon too. But what else is interesting and what ties again to the presidential inauguration date, right? The 20th. We have this little story that, of course, I'm a car guy. Anybody knows me well enough from the Patreon side knows I'm building a media company right now based in the automobile sector, making videos. They are unlisted. You cannot find them anywhere. You can't find the presence because we're still building our content up here. But when it launches, I'll let you guys all know. But I'm keenly aware of things going on in the car industry. And this made the rounds that Bristol, back from the dead with plans for cars new and old. Bristol is one of the old car marks or badges from back in the 40s and 50s that has long since been dead and not around. But all of a sudden on the 20th, the same day, of course, that we get our Patrick Leahy as our president pro emptor, our Batman guy, we have Bristol, the badge coming back in, who used to build this Chrysler Hemi V8. It's this little kind of cool looking coupe, essentially, right? Pretty neat. They haven't been around for very. They've been dead. Let me see here. Let's see, Bristol car man, because I should have done some numerology a little bit better on this, but here they are. There's the mark, and they went defunct in 2020. Okay, after not receiving funding, or I forget what exactly happened. My business partner knows a little bit more about this. Okay, I'm a novice as it comes to the mark. I just need to basically show you guys the defunctity of 2020 that went defunct in 2021, or I keep saying 2021, in 2020, and that it is now being revived, back from the dead, as if to say the Bat God, the turning of the cycle, or we're reviving ourselves. Is this something of significance? Well, I think so. Why you guys think? What the heck does this have to do with anything, Ben? Why are we on Bristol? Well, Bristol, if you guys recall, is the headquarters of the Templars, the original headquarters of the Templars. Back after the Templar War in 1307 with the Vatican, they found themselves in Bristol. And it was from Bristol, the launching off point, that, of course, they founded this country, started laying the land claims to it with the permission of the natives. That's the other difference. The Templars integrated with the natives. No wonder all the native teams made it to the Super Bowl this year, right? And they landed in Minnesota. Remember what I was telling you? The Kensington Rune Stone in our ritual, in our decode ritual of the... Also in this video is just packed with info, guys. I'm telling you. So, of course, this is on my Theta channel. And it'll be linked in the description below if you don't already know where to find it. But anyway, you're starting to see all of these themes. 2021, year one, we are off to the races in terms of the Templar secrets. What they behold for us will be up to us. They're not going to hold our hands. I've never prescribed that they're going to hold our hands. They're just showing us the way, and we can either take the way or not, or we can keep going or we can, keep ourselves getting our heads bit off by the bat, and or rather, however you look at it, you can stick your head out of the tube and take your lashings at the right time too. You can always time it for when the bats aren't flying by. And unlike Batman, who went through his trials of his younger foolish years, he got beat up a little bit. But let's use the Templar's knowledge in this Batman Year One scenario to revive the old, to revive the old into the new, is what I was attempting to say, and make a better world for ourselves. It's interesting. I was starting to look into some of the other Bristol connections here in the States. 151 is another number that comes to mind. If you go look at 151 with the Templars, of course, it's the 36th prime number. Which is significant to the Pythagorean pentagram. And Bristol Motor Speedway, which is in Connecticut, is at 151 Speedway Boulevard. Pretty interesting stuff when you start looking into how a lot of this other Bristol stuff in cars manifests itself. I think there are a lot of Templars that like cars. And if I can at all find a way to put a Templar bend onto this car channel, I will absolutely do it. And you guys will hopefully appreciate the content therein for the sake of it. But this is kind of where the presentation is going to peter out a little bit, guys. I'm going to close the presentation with some thoughts for consideration, because, like I said, the result of the Super Bowl, interpreted either way, means really good things for us in terms of the ritual component, and what we've already said is happening with this reset. How does Bitcoin play in? I don't, it being the Templar construct of how money operates. We've already kind of seen the banking ritual components in previous Super Bowls. This one seems to be all about the secrets themselves. So we're right there. We're right there as far as I can see it, which makes me stoked and really happy. But to the same degree, I think it's going to freak the hell out of a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to come to the realization that we are the Aryan space alien offshoots. Only by virtue of Hermes or Thoth or Prometheus, whatever caricature of the knowledge bearer you want to give or ascribe the symbolism to, that, trickles down to the druidic Templar way of thinking. Serpent faction versus fox eagle faction, right? Well, we're at the end of the story arc. We're at the end of the Mayan calendar now. We're at the beginning of a new one. So let's do something with it, guys. Let's kind of get on each other's, I don't know, like, side of support. This is what it's all about over at the Patreon channel, and what we continue to do on a monthly basis. We get together for 6 hours in these vid chats. If you guys are interested, in fact, in a way of the future and kind of being a part of that, I'll just plug what we do real quick, so you guys can basically understand that if you wanted to help build a community of like-minded individuals, you can do so. If you're a subscriber on my Patreon at the $25 level, we do those monthly, 6-hour-long vid chat sessions where we really get into the weeds about building it. So that's pretty much it. I'll leave you with some food for thought going into the days to come, because I'm outlining a few different next Patreon presentations, but I don't altogether know what direction they're going to take. I naturally will probably decode the results of the Super Bowl at some point so you can see what the deal was. But a couple of things that I became aware of, just to keep in mind over year one, that we may look into deeper. Over on video game side stuff, Project Eagle, the Eagle faction. civilizing Mars, building Mars bases, right? To me, this is a hit on what we've been discussing with the Nazis likely going to Mars and the moon to build bases since World War II and have a huge head start on us, right? I'm watching the alternate history Apple Plus TV show called For All Mankind, where it presumes that we weren't the first ones on the moon. We were second to the Soviets. And so rather we had to catch up. And so the NASA program never went off into the abyss, into the dark programs, and it was all kept public. Interesting show. Not all the way through it yet, but the Nazis and Werner von Braun are central to it. And of course, so here's a game we might investigate this year with the Eagle faction stuff. And then another thing I wanted to point out, if people missed it, in the Irish Examiner, I will link, they were talking about how Donald Trump, when he left office before this whole ritual of transition portended to play out, he said about the Biden administration, we extend our best wishes, and we also want them to have luck, a very important word. So he emphasized that luck was an important word. And that got me thinking, actually, and may expand on this in a further video too, about the luck that goes with the Marvel character. So we're talking about comic characters today with Batman, of Domino, Nina Thurman. Nina Thurman, Domino, given good luck thanks to her powers of probability alteration, psionics, hand-to-hand combat, superior marksmanship, telekinesis. So she has the ability to affect the future based on her thoughts. She's really, really good at placebo effect is what it is. And so she always ends up with this luck quotient. But something about Nina Thurman, she's an albino, and she's a white person, right? Like to the max, like an albino, you know, think about the Aryan expression to the ultimate extreme with this, right? She was also taken into the cult of the Arma Jesuits at age 13, by which her mutant powers manifested. So what is luck as a component to this Arma Jesuits framework that we're talking about, right? She ran away and was arrested in Seattle, as the story arc goes, where all of the delinquent Antifa people are. And she resorted to field operations of covert activity as both an agent of various organizations and governments and as a freelance mercenary while being a member of the National Security Agency. Just like Antifa, right? So I hope you guys are seeing what Donald Trump may be saying here with the word. I haven't gotten totally to the bottom of this. It needs more reference points before we can prove this with certainty. But look out for the friggin' Jesuits. No matter what is a good manner to take in mind, both from the beginning of this video and from the end. Remember, we were talking about at the beginning of the video in the Forum Borealis interview with Tony Gosling, how the Jesuits turned into the Illuminati, turned back into the Jesuits. Because that's where I think we're at now. We're the Jesuits basically like, oh yeah, we were the Illuminati for a while. We rebranded. Oh, everybody hates the Illuminati. Let's become the Jesuits again. Yeah, it's really that stupid out there, guys. So protect your mind. Deactivate the V on your noose, and let these next days, weeks, into the next couple of months resonate well with you, because man, I have a lot of hope for what we can accomplish together once we all agree that the framing is going to be what it is after this Super Bowl. So if we're going to root for somebody, I guess go Bucks. Why not? Sure. Let the home team win. Let's get our Atlantis mysteries and Ancient Earth history uncovered. So with that, guys, luck of the Irish. Sonic Alchemy says luck of the Irish too. Future proves past. To a certain extent, past proves future is how the Mayans would say. $100 on the Bucks. How did Kate act? Well, that's up to you. I choose still not to bet on sports just because of the karma aspect of it. I was tempted this year, though. I was really tempted this year, but especially when I see my friends making money off of my own predictions, it's just like, ugh. But there's a reason why I don't, and I keep firm to that. and I hope you guys don't think me a fool for that. But I just there's just I never want to dip my toe truly into the gambling, so I just choose not to and choose to present this stuff to you guys instead. Anyway, take it easy, guys. That's it. Second goodbye, and you know what? This is actually I'm ending the presentation, but it's worth noting to everybody who wants to stay around, I'm probably going to play some video games. So ending the presentation now, but I'll talk to you guys on the other side that are in the stream here in a sec.